Side.
Joining us now from our Tel Aviv studio to discuss the latest developments affecting the region is Jerusalem Post Arab Affairs reporter Oren Kessler. Oren, good evening.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me, how would you assess the situation in Syria? Does the rebellion against the regime of Bashar al-Assad have any chance of succeeding, or do you believe that it will be brutally suppressed?
As yet, the protests haven't reached Damascus on a large scale. They've been confined to Dara, which is a southern, primarily Sunni and tribal city, and Latakia, which is a coastal city, which is both Sunni and Alawite, which is the sect that the Assad family belongs to. There's a chance that the Kurds in the northeast of Syria could rise up. They've been disenfranchised for a very long time. And they certainly have a lot of grievances against the Assad regime. So if that were to happen, we would see a sort of three-pronged advance towards Damascus. And then I think Assad would begin to fear for the fate of the capital and his regime.
Oren, how do you view the statements from U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton yesterday that the Obama administration sees Assad as a reformer?
I think my guess would be that Clinton perhaps regrets that statement. Assad has made he's made statements hinting at reform. He said when he first came into power in 2000, he inaugurated what he termed the Damascus Spring, and he allowed a short-lived sort of a period of greater openness in Syria. There was more criticism was allowed against the regime and so forth, but it was very short-lived. And last week, Assad again said that he would allow greater freedoms, but I think most Syria experts and observers don't really expect substantive changes. I think we're more likely to see just sort of cosmetic alterations to the Syrian regime.
Well, that's the thing. Today we're expecting the appointment of a new cabinet in Damascus. You don't anticipate any dramatic changes in Syrian policy?
I wouldn't, no. I think this is the same sort of move that we saw in Mubarak's Egypt, and we later saw in Jordan as well, where the head of state says, you know what, the issue is the government, is the people beneath me. I'm not the problem, I'm not going anywhere. But of course in Syria, Assad is the government, the parliament there. And even the ministers are really just sort of rubber stamp institutions.
Many Arab leaders, of course, have been vocally supporting Assad in recent days. Do you think that this is also serving to bolster his regime?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The fact that leaders throughout the Middle East are voicing their own support of Assad, is this helping to keep his regime afloat?
Well, Assad he's very unpopular in the West, but across the Arab and Islamic worlds, he is rather popular because he's seen as taking a very hard line against America, against the West, and against Israel. So I think one of the fears here now with this current state of unrest is that Assad may sort of employ one of his proxies, such as Hezbollah or Hamas, to sort of divert Syrian public opinion or Arab public opinion, and sort of bring about this kind of rally around the flag phenomenon, whereby if Syria or one of its allies are in a conflict with Israel, for example, it would be portrayed as sort of sedition if you were to call the Syrian government into question.
Let's briefly talk about Libya. What can we expect to happen? Do you think the Western airstrikes are going to be successful, or are we looking at a long, protracted war here?
I think there's a very good chance that we could see a long-term, protracted war here. There's a very good chance that the country could be split in two. There's a gathering as we speak of 40 foreign ministers in London to try to figure out what exactly is the next step. We've heard talk from the U.S. and the U.K. about their wishes to see Gaddafi go, but both David Cameron and U.S. President Barack Obama have said that they wouldn't expect to see military force employed. So the question is really how would Gaddafi be ousted if not by military force? I think it's a bit unclear.
Okay, Oren Kessler, as always, thanks so much for being our guest on IBA News this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. In other news, the Hasidic community annually commemorates the death of the rabbi who introduced their stream of Judaism to Poland in the 18th century.